Hold the Line with Mike Solon is brought to you by the Seattle Police Officers Guild, Seattle's public safety voice.
Hey, welcome back to Hold the Line with Mike Solon. In studio, I've got Cam Higby, the guy that everybody wants to talk to because he has taken Antifa head on in the city of Seattle and in our region. We all know Antifa is up to their shenanigans once again, and it doesn't appear as if our politicians want to hold them accountable. We're going to break down all the current events in public safety. Stick around.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther. This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish. Not a fight. Hold the line!
Cam.
How's it going?
Hey, man, I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me.
I know that you had a minor concussion.
Yeah, yep.
I've been hit in the head many times, man, and it's not fun at all.
No. It's not, dizziness, nausea, some ear ringing going on, eye flashes. Yeah. The ear ringing could be flashbangs, from being at protests and stuff.
That's cumulative too. All that stuff. We'll get into a little bit who you are, if you don't mind breaking that down. The biggest thing we don't want to do is dox Cam even further than he has been. But we all know that many cops that have been on the line, no pun intended for Hold the Line, but literally they've had a lot of PTSD from flashbangs and just assaults, hit them in the head, whatever. So tell us about yourself, man. Who the hell are you? And your bit of a background, let the audience know, lay the groundwork into why you are what you are today and why you're doing the incredible work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I started in a small town in New York. I started making sort of political commentary videos, dropped out of college to do that. It was my full time as a kid when I'm 19. Then I made a pivot into journalism after getting banned a bunch of times on TikTok and stuff.
Just posting on feed, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What it's kind of not a big thing to just gloss over. Dropping out of college is a big step, man, because we all have ingrained that, hey, go to high school, go to college, get a job, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. I've always been kind of a pretty big believer in find a job that you actually enjoy doing and do that. And for me, it was journalism. I wanted to be a police officer. I was in school for criminal justice, and then ended up dropping out to pursue commentary and journalism. So
that's a good pivot. Buddy.
I did really want to be a law enforcement officer, but I guess I kind of wanted to be my own boss a little bit more.
Well, I guess you kind of are a law enforcement officer now because you're holding those Antifa lunatics to account, right?
Yeah.
But it will digress from that. So you got involved in the journalism route, posting things, but you got banned a few times, right, because of all the censorship. Roughly what time frame was that in terms of our current political landscape?
I started making videos in 2019, 2020, and I think I got banned in early 2021. And it was kind of this back and forth with TikTok where it was, I get banned, I email their team, they tell me I didn't do anything wrong, they unbanned me, a week later I'm banned again. That happened about 70 times, and then eventually I just gave up.
The rules are a little bit extreme.
Yeah, I don't even think it was the community rules. I think it's their AI that bans people. Yeah, the algorithm that bans people. I think that's what ultimately...
Yeah, it just flags certain words?
Yeah, something like that.
Huh. Well, AI is now in police body-worn video, so it's the same thing in terms of the accountability conversation that I've been railing on for a long time. Is a cop just says one word, it's a flag.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah, and then you can get hit with, professionalism and whatnot. So it's a huge rabbit hole.
Wow,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
So walk us through, man. You're a local guy, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Walk us through that, and then how you got involved in the political landscape here. And I just captured this with public safety in general, right? Because everything I've always said, remove politics out of public safety and you're going to solve most of the problems. But the issues at hand, though, is everything is politically generated. Everything.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I moved from New York to LA and worked for PragerU for 2 years as a producer. And then I started working as a journalist for Today's America. That's my current role. And my girlfriend got a new job out here, so we moved to Seattle. I'm fully remote, so I came with, and we got a place here. And
it's a great spot, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the weather is fantastic, dude. Yeah, seriously. It was like, it always rains. No, I don't think it really always does. Maybe a little bit gray majority of the year, but these summers are incredible.
The summers are great. Yeah. I find it's more like, outside of the summer, it's more of like a mist sometimes. Not actually raining. It's just damp.
Probably rains more per capita in New York than it does here in this state.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, buddy. We're happy to have you because you've been taking these people on head on, and I'm humbled by your work. Like I mentioned, the police side of the house. You're using the technology, the cameras, and your words and your creative mind to illustrate what appears to be a group of people that are bent on completely turning politics in this nation to I think it's a Marxist revolution.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this podcast is really important too, because it kind of shows people that there are, the SPD wants to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Cause we're fed up. I mean, just a little bit about, I want to talk too much about, what we do here, because I want you to be the focus, because you're the talent in the room here. But our job has been so politicized, and they've been targeting us for a very long time to demoralize us, to remove that calling of why somebody wanted to be a cop. Mm-hmm. And the policies that have been changed prohibit us in a very, very strong way from being effective. Right? We've policied ourselves out of being an effective police force. And so now the calling's been forcefully removed. That's why we've seen 700 people gone in 10 years, 500 past 2020, a majority of that. It's very difficult to find a competent human to want to do this job because of the scrutiny, but we make a good wage. I think it's because of this union, and we advocate for our people that are still out there that still wear the uniform. But we only have like 850 cops left that can do the job.
Yeah, it seems like leadership kind of puts you in the crosshairs of both sides of the political aisle, because you do too much, or actually just do your job, and you're targeted by the left side of the aisle, and you don't do enough, and then the right's mad at you.
Yep. Yeah. So we're caught in the middle.
Yeah.
And maybe that should be our role, because we're supposed to be apolitical. Right. So we don't have biases. But what we've seen over the years is that this hardcore violence is particularly from the far left, right? Yeah. The mobs of people that are hell-bent on destroying our nation, inside out. And in the meantime, if they can remove police from being effective in the criminal justice, public safety conversation, then that's one part of the steps of the Marxist revolution.
Yeah, it's exactly what they want. They want all of you guys to resign.
Yep.
Hate your job so much that you resign, or completely castrate the police force and make it so they're unable to do anything.
Yeah, and you nailed it. And I think you threaded the needle there in terms of the left is mad at us because we're maybe too oppressive, right? You don't want to arrest anybody, and then the right is like, why aren't you doing anything about it?
Yeah.
And we've seen it even relative to, some of the posts you put out in terms of where are the cops? Well, fair enough, man. Fair point. But we don't have anybody. And then everything from our perspective, that's why this union is trying to fill this void, because there's really no other authority outside of good journalists like yourself, because local media is not going to cover this, which is, I guess, expected now.
Yeah.
Sadly. Corporate mainstream media or legacy media.
Yeah.
That rail, you can't rely on them anymore. But the issue is, I think more often in these cities that have supported defunding, the populace, the voting block of people aren't really getting the proper news.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, and I get it to an extent with like legacy media. You kind of, you've got a boss, and, it's like, do I really want to risk getting hurt for my boss, or there's liability issues or whatever. But it's like, I don't know, it just feels like in legacy media there's zero passion and there's zero drive to actually get the story when there's violence going on in the streets, right? Whereas me, like, I have a boss too, and I work for a company. It's a smaller company, it's more intimate, but I want to be at the front of the story. If my boss told me that I couldn't go out anymore and I couldn't do it because it's a liability issue, I would tell him, fine, I'll go do it in my free time. It's like, it's important to me.
That's great. I mean, that's passion and drive from within, and not many people have that. I think the corporate employee, I think what you were describing,
exactly,
is limited, but I think the direction of that corporate media entity, whatever that, the name of that company is, they have handlers too.
Well, I'll tell you this too. I think they kind of get put in a similar situation to you guys in a lot of cases, because it's like, so you guys run into a problem where you can arrest 1 million protesters that are committing violent crimes, but that doesn't mean the prosecutors are going to prosecute them. Those cameramen can run into the action and get a protester or rioter smashing you guys in the head with a rock, but that doesn't mean the station's going to air it. So it's like, why even do it in the first place?
Yeah, and you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
But I think this is true. Democracy dies in darkness, and if you're not illustrating what is truly occurring in our streets and in our society, then we're really down a dark path.
Yeah. I get a lot of people telling me, even people who agree with me politically, like, you shouldn't have been there. It's, it's your fault that you got the crap beat out of you, because, it's a dangerous situation. You should know what you're getting into. It's like, yeah, I do know it's a dangerous situation. It's like, doesn't give people the right to assault me, but also, like, somebody's got to do it. Right. Because if I'm not there, it's like, and then, I look at the profile and they're retweeting a bunch of independent journalist stuff at riots. And it's like, you wouldn't have this stuff to retweet if there wasn't people like me, John Cho, Katie Davis Court on the ground recording it. You just wouldn't have the material. You wouldn't know it's happening.
That's right. And I think that just goes to your courage. And I'm going to pump your tires all day today, because you're going hard in the paint where not many people would want to put their necks out there physically.
Yeah.
And these people are hell bent on potentially killing you to fill their ideological, political motives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Political violence is real. I mean, we just saw what in Minnesota, right? Lawmakers, the Speaker of the House in Minnesota, killed at their private home.
Yeah. That's what it is now. It's intimidation. If you damage our narrative, we will kill you or we will hurt you.
And I think that's why I really respect the hell out of you and the people you just named. Because I think that they understand. I don't want to speak for them, but I don't want to speak for you either. But I'm trying to capture this in my own mind for the audience here. You guys are illustrating what's at stake.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to get into your security situation when you're out in these places, but based upon some of the footage here, and we'll play it in just a minute, your life is at stake.
Yeah.
And it's quite humbling that you're willing to risk that for, I think, our republic, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's
First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's important. It's not even, it's that, and it's also like just how many people are on the streets that, they were lighting fires under occupied vehicles that were in parked traffic. Why are they in parked traffic? Because they're blocking the street. It's like, easily could have killed some. There were people leaving their cars, abandoning them on the road, women, because they were afraid. And that's stuff that needs to be documented, because if you don't document it, there won't be any pressure. And if there's no pressure, nothing will get done.
Yeah, and it'll be normalized.
Exactly.
And that gets back to, like, say, the corporate media, legacy media, mainstream media conversation.
Yeah.
If they're not reporting that to the populace, that exactly the voting bloc here that don't really maybe consume, independent journalists. Is that okay to tag you with that? Independent journalists?
Sure.
Although you're an employee of a smaller business or company, but if they're not pumping the tires of independent journalists, then nobody really knows what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and they won't air that footage. I mean, I've noticed pretty much nobody. Local stations are really covering what happened that night, not just to me, but to anyone, to Brandy, to the people that were just driving down the street outside of the federal building. They're just not covering that stuff. And so it's the same. It's, if I didn't know that was happening that night, and I didn't know the situation in Seattle, how bad it was, if this was like a new thing, or if everybody continued to tell me that these were just peaceful protests and there was no violence and everything was fine. And my friend came and told me, hey, I just drove through downtown Seattle. They took over the streets. It was anarchy. They tried to light my car on fire. Whatever. I mean, it couldn't have been that bad, you know? Like, it couldn't have been that bad. If there's no video evidence, like, you know, people tend to exaggerate things, and you'd think it's an exaggeration, I think. And most people probably do.
Yeah.
And the only people that would know if it's not documented are the witnesses, you know?
Yeah. I mean, based upon some of your footage, man, there's just normal people, just whatever, downtown, maybe going to a dinner or show.
Yeah.
All of a sudden are met with this vicious mob who just want to prove a political point and light their car on fire.
Yeah, they were blocking traffic and telling people that they have to say F ICE if they want to go. Otherwise they can't go. They like trapped like this poor Asian family on the street outside the federal building and said that they couldn't go until they said F ICE, and they just refused to do it. And they're like, well, there are people dying. The people's lives are at stake. If you don't say this, then you can just suffer for a little while.
That's pure fascism right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So what they tag cops as being, or like you, the independent journalist, is just a right-wing lunatic fascist, right?
Yeah. Well, I've now ascended to the title of Nazi, apparently.
Nazi.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I guess join the club, man. It's nice to be in good company.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the fact that mainstream media is not broadcasting that tells you we're in some serious trouble if it weren't for the work of you and other independent journalists.
Yeah.
I mean, so man, my hat's off to you.
Appreciate it.
Really, that's a lot of respect for you, and it puts police in a difficult spot too, because we'll get into some of that for the viewers and people that consume this. We follow in terms of the police world, chain of command. Right? It's a paramilitary organization. So, you know, we have our chief level, and that filters down through commanders, lieutenants, and captains. And then SPOG represents the line officers and the sergeants. So given the optics of things, how we stage a lot, like we're around the corner or up the hill, and we'll let them tire themselves out, meaning if they're starting a bomb fire in the middle of 2 and Marion, right there next to the courthouse, it's like, okay, well, we'll let that kind of peter out if it can. But then when they start doing property damage and then assaulting, well, then at some point, we need to move in and restore order, but it's very political.
Yeah.
Right. The 2020 riots, we've seen a sea change of policies, crowd control stuff that changes that make our use of less lethal tools that much more, I think, analyzed cautiously to make sure that we don't overcorrect or overuse force, right? Because we're still under DOJ consent decree. The judge still holds Seattle over a barrel, if you will. That's the last piece, is my understanding, before they're out of here, is this crowd control policy. But I'll pump the tires for DOJ for just a minute, because in 2020, that then city council restricted our use of less lethal tools to the fact that we basically couldn't even use any. Think about that.
Yeah.
And then thank God for the DOJ at that time, because their policies were superseded the council's move, and we were able to continue to use less lethal tools. But since that time, it would save the city, basically.
Yeah.
Since that time now, there's been so much scrutiny that any use of blast balls or like OC, pepper spray and whatnot, has to get mayoral and chief approval. And so it's a hurdle. It's a long kind of like drawn out sentence into my point is, we're put in these positions because of the optics, what could look bad for us. And so people like yourself are left holding the bag, kind of, where the hell are the cops? Because we've been told to just stage. We don't really know that all these assaults are occurring.
And that kind of comes from above the like order to stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not surprised. So you have to get authorization to use OC and anything else from the chief.
Yeah. I mean, each individual use of force is strictly the sole responsibility of the officer using that force, right? Whether it's you using your gun, striking somebody, using OC spray, right? You're the individual officer making that decision. But in those types of crowd control environments, we're going to get orders to stage, and then we're not going to move in unless we're told to do that. That comes from above. It'd be very rare for an individual officer, say in plain clothes, who's been compromised, out to make a call. I mean, outside of somebody in an undercover role taking action, very rare for a uniformed person to go cowboy by themselves.
Yeah.
And insert themselves in, because if they did, they'd get hammered discipline-wise.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I suspected.
Very
but it was coming from the top.
Very, very political. So, I mean, even to the point where, I've said this in my last podcast, it's like the chief going out there and basically saying that he expects to be arrested by the Trump administration, right? I mean, all grandstanding, right?
Yeah.
Didn't go over well with the membership at all. But I got a lot of respect for that guy because he's been very good to work with so far since he's been here. Mm-hmm. But he's an appointee by a blue city Democrat mayor, right?
Yes.
So they're gonna do what the mayor wants done,
Right.
right? And all those decisions where it's crowd control, those types of measures, City Hall is going to weigh in pretty heavy,
Right.
because everything comes down to the optics, and ultimately, at the end of the decision, who's left holding responsibility? It's the executive, the mayor.
Yeah.
So all that stuff's connected. So why do I bring that up is, it's the individual officers are left then, if they have, when they're ordered to use force or say, let's get in there, then the accountability side of the house goes to the individual officer, and then they're the ones who are going to be left to answer, why did you deploy that less lethal tool in this manner? What type of injuries did the other person get? So it's very, very politicized. So then when you're by yourself getting your ass handed to you because you got sucker punched,
Yeah.
you're like, where the hell are the cops, man? Because we're not around.
Yeah.
Because they told us not to be around.
Exactly.
It's all optics. So
it's terrible.
When you talk about people that are just driving their cars around, milling about the city, and they get their car almost lit on fire, it's almost lawless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely.
What's the solution in your eyes?
I mean, the obvious answer would be leadership that does something, but I just don't see that happening. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like the leadership is almost lost, because it seems pretty obvious that there are people in the city, elected leaders, who either want votes out of the Antifa crowd or they're afraid of them. And
Could it be a combo?
it could be a combo. Yeah. And it's like, if you abandon that block of people and you make them mad, maybe you're afraid of those people coming after you for retribution. Political violence, physically. Maybe, elected leaders getting political violence against them. We've already seen that.
I already see it in Minnesota.
It makes sense that an elected leader in Seattle would be afraid of those things, considering I think Seattle's probably one of the most violent cities in terms of political violence in the country. But then it's like, if I were in charge of the city, it's like I would put my people above my own personal safety. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather have somebody come to my house than have people risking their lives driving down the street in downtown Seattle.
So what you just conveyed to me is leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership intangibles, and you've got it. I can see it. I can hear it.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just expand that a bit. Why do you think Seattle is one of the most politically violent cities in the nation?
I've been to a lot of them. I spent a lot of time in LA. I spent time in Berkeley. I spent time in Irvine, California, a lot of places in California. Georgia, a little bit. Michigan, Chicago. Trying to think. I think we'll get into New York. Yeah, we'll get into the reason why I think Seattle is the most politically violent city, and it's a lot of the stuff we just talked about. But in terms of actual sheer political violence that I've witnessed, I think Seattle has been the worst. I mean, just the other day, the same day I was attacked, Brandy Cruz was also attacked. Not technically Tequila, but the greater Seattle area. So I was assaulted a lot in LA. But it was not as bad, I guess I'll say. Like, a lot of the assaults were, slap in the face, push down some stairs, whatever. And it's mostly college kids. I did get bear sprayed at one point directly in my eyes, and that sucked. But
well, how do they out you? Facial
in any situation, or specifically?
I think it's just specifically with you, or just how does that basically? Does it generate organically, or does somebody just point you out? Hey, there's that cam. Let's get that son of a bitch.
Yeah. So in LA, I'm probably maybe now I'm more well known here than I was in LA after what happened this week. But in LA, they all know me. So like anybody who's involved in the protesting,
Antifa, we're talking about specifically Black Bloc.
Black Blocs, the Kafia people, they all hate me. So I didn't go undercover as much in LA because I'm not like as worried about them doing physical violence against me, like great physical violence as I am here. So I didn't go undercover as much. I would usually wear like a plate carrier and a helmet or something and go out just in case somebody tried to stab me. But
does anybody does it say press on your
person?
person?
Yeah, it says press. Yeah. I when I was bear sprayed, I was, by a protester, I was wearing a clearly marked credentials too. And I had my camera up,
Yeah.
sprayed me right in the eyes, probably 5 to 10 feet range. And that stuff is a 40 foot range. Blow your eyes up if you're close enough.
Yep.
So, it is bad in LA, but I think the night scene here is more dangerous. Like I'd be probably worried about like getting shot here.
I think you're right. You say that because you got pedigree. I didn't say you haven't been shot, but what I'm saying is that you've got a history of getting assaulted.
Yeah.
And you being on the ground, I think is reflective of that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's stunning to say because Seattle is 1 million people?
It's like 700,000.
Right?
Yeah.
800,000 people. LA is what? Geez.
11 million
11
in the county.
million people.
Yeah.
And you think Seattle is more violent?
Yeah. It's honestly, a lot of people give LA a really bad rap. Like when I lived in New York, everyone's, it's this terrible place to live. It's like this liberal nightmare and stuff. And there are a lot of people there with crazy ideas, but I think LA is actually a good mix. There's a lot of people across the political spectrum there, and it's a pretty good mix. I mean, it's not really like it's a lot. There's homeless problems and a lot of crime and stuff like that, but in terms of the craziness, it's not the. I actually think in terms of the political craziness, Seattle deserves the rap that LA gets.
Maybe a better way to, in terms of my view of it, is LA is a little bit more moderate.
Yeah, I think the average person is probably a little bit more moderate.
Sure.
Yeah,
and Seattle is more progressive.
Yeah,
moving to the left, socialism.
Yeah,
if not Marxist.
Yeah,
political
for sure.
Elected leaders.
Yeah, I watched
43rd Legislative District. Police abolitionist.
Yeah, I watched. When I was in Tequila the other day, the same day as the assault, there was a woman there, a rioter, not even masked or anything, and there's the arm that comes down at the DHS facility that lets cars in and out of the sort of their loading area or where their agents leave, and 3 officers, FPS, Federal Protective Services, and then a couple protesters lined up, and I'm embedded with them, so I'm standing on this line that they have, and this woman is just yelling at them, calling them ICE and stuff, and they're like, "Look, we're not ICE. Like we don't detain people who are immigrants. We don't deport people who are immigrants. We are Federal Protective Services. We respond to things like the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah, we protect the buildings,
exactly,
the property,
exactly." And she says, "So why are you here?" And he goes, "Because there are people in this building getting their citizenship today, and we're here to protect the building." And of course, she didn't listen to that, and she said, "You should quit your jobs and become garbage men so you don't get killed in the revolution."
The revolution being the Marxist revolution.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is the political violence that you've said Seattle is so, I think, akin to. Is this is it?
Yeah, I think LA. Now I did see far worse in LA when I was covering it the past week
because they have more numbers.
Because they have more numbers than I saw here when I came back. So I went to LA, covered the first 5 days of the riots, and then came back here for what happened on Wednesday.
Okay.
And there was way more violence in LA, but I think the difference is that in LA, what you have is you have some protesters who get mildly violent, and then opportunists step in. So, people who might be homeless, like drug addicts, people who are just below the poverty line that want to steal some stuff. They come in, they loot the businesses, they light stuff on fire. They have nothing better to do. And they take advantage of those numbers and the police being unable to move in on them. Here, I think people actually think they're starting a revolution. I think the people here are so politically motivated and ideological They actually think that they're changing the political landscape of the country and they're going to have a revolution.
That's scary, man.
Yeah. And that's what I've noticed. I mean, like that girl said it to the FPS officers. You will die in the revolution if you remain a police officer. And I'm not sure, like I'm not changing or twisting her words at all. It's exactly what she said.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I think our elected leaders are scared.
Yeah, I think so too.
Combination of being scared, but then worried about getting elected again.
Exactly.
And then therefore, there's really no leadership. It's just a chasm of darkness. And then you're filling the void. To an extent, police are filling the void, or try to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me think like, you know, if you're not going to actually lead the city, why are you even trying to get reelected? You know, like if you're not going to protect the city, if you're not going to, I mean, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you actually doing as a leader?
What's your role?
You're just holding office. You're just taking up space. That's all you're doing.
Doesn't even make sense.
No.
The alternative is worse. You could have a further progressive candidate.
That's the scary part.
Would really fund the revolution. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, some current candidates that are running for office in Seattle are really make you kind of take a step back, and it's not really good.
No, not at all. Well, if you don't mind, I want to trigger your PTSD, but
yeah,
Jack Rack. The hell did we call him yesterday? I think
Sweet Baby Jack.
Sweet Baby Jack. We were just clowning his tattoos. It was just so good. You have to troll these people because you really have to make fun of the situation and put them on their back foot. Just what that does is just shows you that you've already said it. You're not intimidated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's scary, but I won't back down, you know, if that makes sense. Like I'm not going to.
So here it is, basically just going to play parts of your video of, I think you described it in the Ari Hoffman show yesterday. It's you were sitting down and they just kind of doxed you. Hey, there is Cam.
Somehow they identified me. I'm not sure
no clue how.
But I was sitting down on the ground and they came up and they pinned me to I was kind of some kind of wall behind me or something on, you know, the federal building has those little half walls and sitting up on that and on my phone, not filming, hadn't been filming in a while. And they just came up and pinned me to that wall.
You were taking a break.
Yeah. Taking a break. Yeah, exactly. It was like a lull.
Yeah.
It was like not too much going on. So actually like I had, thought 10 minutes prior, like maybe SPD was going to show up. There was some kind of rumors going around the protest that, or I shouldn't even call it a protest, riot, that SPD was going to show up soon. So I had my gas mask on, luckily, because if I didn't have the gas mask on, then I probably would have got hit in the face. But yeah, so just kind of sitting there.
All right, well, let's play the video. There he sucker punches you twice. Pretty strong hits. And then you defend yourself, rightfully so, with pepper spray. Good on you for that. And that basically stopped the assault.
Yeah, I was able, kind of when he hit me too, all my stuff fell out of my pockets like a pinata. So I was able
Personal ID and all that stuff, or just whatever personal effects?
I think my wallet flew out, my car keys, my phone definitely. So when I pepper sprayed him, it actually, you know, I would have probably had to retreat without
your stuff,
without my stuff, and I would have been stranded. No car keys, no phone, can't get a hold of anybody. But I had the pepper spray, so I was able to repel him and grab that stuff. And you know, I thought quickly on my feet. Luckily,
it's smart. Thank God you had that because you created distance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in police world, it's called time, distance, and shielding, right? So in essence, your use of self-defense, pepper spray was a de-escalation. You got them off you. But getting sucker punched like that, it looks like, I think you're right. I think you posted that he may or may not have had like a sap glove. A sap glove is basically lead or a heavy metal object that's embedded in leather. Typically, you put it over your knuckles and you have more of an impact in terms of a blunt instrument, much like what we know as brass knuckles or whatever. That was a hard punch, man. The back of your head, if you didn't have that helmet on, that's right around your back of your head, the brainstem. You could have some serious cognitive issues from that.
Yeah, we think it would not have been good. Yeah, it probably would have been extremely seriously injured.
Where's that helmet? You got that helmet here?
I do. I have it right here.
Look at this guy. He comes in with his kit.
So it's kind of.
Oh my God, I can see that's basically the right part of right above your ear.
Yep, and then we got knuckle marks back here too. It's kind of.
See that? Holy cow! Yeah, you can see the knuckle, and then that might have been the second punch there, because that seems like right on the side of your head. That was his first sucker punch. Yeah, folks, I'm looking at it and I'm feeling that's definitely somebody that's got something on their knuckles. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we've looked at some pictures and compared them up, and there's other pictures of him in gloves, and his hands are real skinny. But that night, I mean, you can even see under some angles in the right lighting, it looks like he has a bulge on his knuckles, and you can also kind of see the bulge of a strap down here, which indicates probably sap. Yeah. And his punch seemed like it had some weight behind it. Yeah, and this guy wound up. Yeah, exactly. And he's in the comments of my my Twitter post saying, "Oh, they're cotton gloves." Cotton gloves? Yeah, and he also says it wasn't him; it was his doppelganger. He's in the comments. Yeah. Oh, so he's totally trying to deflect. Oh, he's trying to deflect. Yeah, but it's him. We've confirmed. Well, you guys have done the police work, the detective work for sure. I mean, credit to Katie Daviscourt doing that, and the work that you've done. Katie did a great job. Yeah, outstanding work. She found him, and she found the most compelling proof possible that it was him. And then I had people who actually know him tell me, and I'm not going to say who it is. Sure, 100% it's him, 100%. And he claims he has this big face tattoo. The police are going to laugh when he walks in and he's got this big old face tattoo. It's not him. The guy in the video doesn't have a face. He does have a video. The video of him, I think, trying to recover from the pepper spray when he's on the ground, and that's his face. Yeah, he's got a face tattoo. It's very small. It's right here. It's a teardrop or something. Under his right cheek. Yeah, and I think he's going to try to get a bigger face tattoo, so when he gets arrested, it's, where's the tattoo in the video? But I identified him 5 minutes after the assault, before I had seen any video, any pictures or anything. Literally, as I just finished running away from the situation, he's got a tattoo on just below one of his eyes on the right or left side. What do you think would have happened if you had not had the presence of mind to go to your self-defense tool, which was the pepper spray? What do you think would have happened to you? Well, I think a combination of that and the guy who pulled him. This is another guy that I know who I've seen on the street a couple of times. He just does similar stuff to me, records what's going on. If it wasn't for those two things, it probably would have been a lot worse. I can imagine kicking. He did. He kicked me in the face. So I can imagine. Right at the end there, he tried to get a last kick. Kicks to the gut. Probably. I've seen other journalists, friends of mine, get attacked like this, and it kind of, you just end up in a fetal position on the ground, getting the crap kicked out of you. Trying to absorb the blows as best you can, so you cover up your vital parts. Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's nuts. Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. And this isn't even the first time I've had to do this either. Deploy pepper spray. There was a time, this Riley Gaines event that they had in the U District. She came and spoke. Yeah, no, it was actually just a couple months ago. You're absolutely correct. Yep. Yeah, right. It was right after it was either right after or right before the Cal Anderson thing that led to City Hall. Yeah. And so at that event, I was undercover with Katie Daviscourt, and this ginormous Antifa militant, just huge dude, not just wide, but tall. This guy's huge. And then he had another smaller person with him. I think it was a female. We were filming them following elderly couples out of the event. Kill yourself. That's right. I remember that was at U'd Up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I didn't know you were filming that you were part of that. Yeah, that was all the videos out of that, I think, were Katie and I. And so they actually charged at Katie, chased her into an intersection with traffic. And to me, that's criminal harassment. Yeah, and Katie's, first of all, a woman, unarmed, and she's small. And they chased her into an intersection, and they got about this close to her, and then I came up and pepper sprayed it, the guy. Yeah, you felt you had to do that, intervene. Yeah, and then they chased me down, and then I pepper sprayed them both, and my GoPro had fallen off my body, and they stole it and ran away. So you still don't have that? No, I didn't know they had taken it. I actually saw them leaning up against a wall later, kind of dealing with the effects of the spray. I would have gone up and taken the GoPro back, but I just didn't know they had taken it until I reviewed the footage. I realized my GoPro wasn't on my chest anymore. And do you know if those people have been identified at that Riley Gaines event? No, and I haven't seen them since either. They're very identifiable voices. Well, that gets me into, their anonymity, if you will, their attempts to remain anonymous by wearing face coverings, goggles, masks.
Yeah. They say it's because of there are immunocompromised people at the protests.
Immunocompromised.
Which is funny to me because...
A health issue.
Yeah, health issue. I'd been to a fair amount of protests prior to 2020. Not a single person wearing a mask ever, right? You'd never wear a mask to a protest prior to 2020 because if you are wearing a mask in pretty much any situation, you're going to assume one of two things. That person is like gravely ill, like on their deathbed and probably shouldn't be out of their house, or that person is about to commit a crime. One of the two.
Yeah.
And, they veil it with this immunocompromised thing. But it's funny because they'll have their masks down. And as soon as you guys show up, masks up, masks up. Oh, that's interesting. Why are you putting your masks up? Because the cops showed up. Are you doing something that you don't want to be seen doing by the people who enforce the law?
Well, it's interesting because now what we're seeing based upon, the LA stuff, there's some state senators in California that are pushing legislation. And this comes from Senator Scott Wiener. And this is his post from yesterday. This is his words. We're seeing the rise of secret police. Masked. No identifying info. Even wearing army fatigues. Grabbing and disappearing people. It's antithetical to democracy and harms communities. This No Secret Police Act can help end the fear and chaos this behavior creates in communities. And so I think what he's referring to is those federal ICE agents are wearing face coverings because they're getting doxxed.
Yeah, and people are going to show up and have families,
And so that, for people, I've said this in the pod before, I'll say it again. The reason why you're having these federal agents and some law enforcement wear these balaclavas or bandanas, if you will, is to cover their face because in 2020, in the riots, particularly here in Seattle, we had officers on the riot line. Mm-hmm. And per policy and per actually city charter, we have to have a name tag on our Seattle police uniform, identifies who the hell you are. And so the lunatics on the lines that were hell-bent on assaulting us would get our names off of our uniforms and then do the research and dox us. So when they're on the line, they've got all their information. They knew where we lived, public records, marriage status, kids, where the kids went to school, anything that they could find to disparage us, discourage us from being on the line. They would attack you personally. And that was considered doxing. Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're seeing is outside of viewing a name tag on your uniform, they're using facial recognition technology to then filter through AI and whatever to do a record check of your personal history, all of your personal information, which could be compromised, to dox you even further. So in an attempt to use black blocs, methods to not be identified by the police, well, the police have to protect themselves because we're being doxed for nefarious reasons.
Yeah.
And our safety is compromised, not just present in the moment of doing our jobs, but in our off time.
Yeah.
In our personal lives.
Yeah.
And so when you have politicians like this in California who are virtue signaling and then taking the side of the mob, making a political statement, that's a serious problem.
Yeah. I mean, it seems that if police officers can't wear masks, it seems that there should be no reason why protesters are wearing masks.
100%.
It should be a modifier on a crime. And it reminds me a lot of this thing that I hear a lot at protests or riots. Why are you in riot gear? There is no riot here. You hear them chant that?
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time.
They're all in riot gear.
They're all in riot gear.
They're all in riot gear.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones who showed up in riot gear, and then you guys showed up after. So
and here's of course legacy corporate media or mainstream media. The three are the same. It's the same thing. And here's ABC News pumping the tires of that California state senator's legislation, and I'll just read it. It's real quick. A pair of lawmakers in California are seeking to ban law enforcement officers in the state from wearing face coverings amid protests in L.A. against the Trump administration immigration policies. That's what this is all about. State Senators Scott Wiener and Jesse Arreguín, Hopefully I pronounced that right. Democrat lawmakers from San Francisco and Oakland, respectfully, announced Monday that they would be filing Senate Bill 627 to ban local, state, and federal law enforcement from covering their faces when interacting with the public. The legislation, dubbed the No Secret Police Act, would also require law enforcement officers to wear identifying information, Weiner wrote in a post on X, which I just referred to. And his is his quote, "Secret police behavior tanks trust and must end," unquote, Weiner wrote. During a press conference outside San Francisco City Hall on Monday, Weiner said that the secret police were grabbing people off the street. Fox San Francisco affiliate KTVU reported. Exemptions to the bill would include SWAT teams and officers who wear medical masks during natural disasters such as wildfires, a lawmaker said. Clear riot gear would also be permitted since they are see-through. I don't know who the hell wears clear riot gear. It doesn't make any sense to me. The bill intends to ensure transparency and accountability for law enforcement as well as protect them and the public from potential impersonators. That's a spin. We did see the police impersonator in Minnesota use political violence.
Yeah.
The proposed legislation comes amid several days of protests in L.A., yada, yada, over the Trump administration's immigration policies. The protests prompted President Trump to deploy National Guard troops without the consent of California Gavin Newsom. Well, he doesn't need the consent. He can just do it.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you how legacy media fills the gap for the low information person, the voter. It's like, yeah, absolutely, this is outrageous.
Yeah.
Not knowing that there's nothing in that article that media corporate spin, that the reason why they're wearing those facial recognition, not just to, have anonymity, it's to protect themselves because of the doxing threat.
Exactly. And there's no secret police. You're on a line wearing a badge.
Like Gestapo.
It's like, it's not like you're completely undercover, just nabbing whoever you can find. It's you're just hiding your specific identity. You're still in uniform. And I don't know what this is about impersonating police officers, because I've never heard of a single case of a riot officer on a line
that was impersonating
a cop. And none of the other people around, the other officers around him realize, hey, I don't know this guy. Nope. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. And so that gets into, how this extreme political violence dictates political terms and impacts our communities for the low information voter who doesn't really digest your independent journalism, which is on point.
Yeah.
So I credit to you, man. I mean, we need more of you. Get back to that night, and these people thought that some other random vehicle that was parked, I believe looks like on 2nd Ave, I think, this Jeep.
Yeah, I think so.
And check this out. This random dude, black block, breaking somebody's property because they thought it was your gear.
Yeah.
And they're chanting F-U-C-K ICE. So this is the new BLM movement, basically. Yeah. Now it's just ICE and immigration stuff. It's just pivoting using the same actors.
Yep.
More recruitment now to use them.
Same people that were out in 2022. Like my attackers were out in 2020. I know that for a fact. They've admitted it.
Online.
Yeah. Tyler Hahn, one of the attackers, one of 3. He has admitted that he has been out at protests for years. He has videos posted publicly on his Facebook from the BLM riots in Seattle.
Yeah, now they're just pivoting to the new thing.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Well, then Katie, here's her posts. She's looking at Lawson, who's sweet baby.
Yep.
Jack Rack.
Guy
that clubbed you in the head. Starting fires. I believe this is probably off of 2nd Ave, I think.
Yeah.
I'll play a little clip of it. This random moped driving around with a torch.
Yeah.
There's Jack Rack lighting a fire in the middle of the street.
Yeah, he had a can of aerosol. I think he sprayed some of that in my gas mask
flammable liquid.
Yeah, when they first.
He sprayed that into your gas mask?
I don't know what. I don't think it's flammable liquid. Maybe it is, but it's like some kind of aerosol or something. But when they pinned me, I definitely heard a spray of something.
I couldn't incapacitate you.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything because there were so many hands on the visor of my mask that I couldn't see anything. But they were fiddling with the filter on my gas mask, and eventually when he punched me, if you slow it down, you see the filter flies off from the impact of the punch. Yeah, and so I'm like 70 to 80% sure they sprayed something in my gas mask. It was coughing as I ran away. But yeah, I mean, in that video, where the attack video starts about halfway through the attack. That's only halfway through.
Yeah, because that's what you're able to just you put out in terms of what you captured. Or whose video is that?
It was a bystander. So like I said, it was this lull. So nobody was recording because like we didn't think there was anything going on, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's such a lull that I'm sitting down, which is very rare at protests. I very rarely sit.
Yeah, because you're on your feet. You want to know what the hell's around you.
Exactly, moving around a lot, and so it was such a lull. Luckily, those guys were standing next to me and you know thought to turn around and record, and they caught it about halfway through.
That's a felonious assault.
Yeah,
I would say that's a felony assault right there.
Yeah,
politically motivated.
Yeah, and you know possibly
we'll see if the cops can prove it.
Yeah.
Well, here's, Jonathan Cho, another independent journalist who's going hard in the paint. He's done a great job. You talk about a guy that's resurrected his career from legacy corporate media to now being an independent journalist, and he's crushing it.
Yep. He does a great job.
Does a fantastic job. And, based upon what you've offered, you've put a financial reward to figure out these people that assaulted independent journalist Brandy Cruz.
Yep.
Same day that you got assaulted at the Tequila THS facility.
Yep.
This is Joe. Now go hard in the paint. Add an additional $3,000 to the reward fund if we get information that leads to the arrest and prosecution of these Antifa thugs.
Told him this is the one time I'm happy to be one-upped. So
that's pretty good, man. He's doing a great job. And again, these people, if you see the picture, a link will be in the description. They again have their medical masks or their filtered masks. This one that sprayed what appears to be bug spray at Brandy.
Yeah, wasp killer.
Yeah, very, very concealed. Looks like ski goggles, a red hat.
Yeah.
Face mask. I mean, it's going to be very difficult outside of people ratting that person out to identify who they are.
You'd be surprised how often that happens too. I mean, you probably know because you're a police officer.
Just turn on each other.
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of people, disgruntled family members, former spouses or girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, reach out. Yeah, I hate this guy. It's definitely him, 100%.
That's good. So you, in fact, have become not just somebody that captures the events on the ground, the violent attacks, the insurrection, basically, right? Not to make it too politicized here, but that's essentially what this is turning out to be.
Yeah.
But you've also become your own investigator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laying the groundwork for authorities.
Yeah, I use the facial recognition like you mentioned earlier, and be surprised how easy it is to plop someone's face in the software and now you got their Facebook.
Know everything
LinkedIn.
about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing their reward points at like Fred Meyer. Well, foolish of you put your full name and your address on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Easily obtained.
Yeah.
So, dude, what's next, man? I mean, let's be full transparent. How can the cops improve, I think, the safety capacity for you independent journalists? What can we do better, man? Because we don't have all the answers. We're just humans that swore an oath of service, get a government paycheck. We believe in the Constitution. Otherwise, we would not have gone to the calling of service. We're here to defend the rights of our citizens. What can we do better?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the safest when there's a police line in front of me. Unfortunately, that comes at the cost of you guys because they're not attacking me because they're distracted by you. However, it seems that the majority of the problem doesn't come from you guys. It doesn't come from a lack of trying. It comes from your hands are bound, right? Like if I was sitting across from Bruce Harrell right now, it'd be a much different conversation. I'd have a lot to tell him, in terms of things he can do to improve on or completely change about his entire operation. But I mean, I was there Wednesday and, a firework went off and it was just immediately cleared. And that was amazing. The biggest thing I can say is just be there.
Antifa threw a mortar firework.
Exactly.
Because we saw in 2020, a lot of our cops got injured.
Yeah.
Facial injuries from those big mortars. They could kill you.
Yeah, they can. Yeah. And that's another thing where if I wasn't there, Katie wasn't there, would have never got caught. The left leaning media in Seattle already spun that story. But I was standing right next to the officers when that mortar went off, and must have been over a dozen officers sitting with the bikes and
Yeah, that was the
right in the
catalyst.
center.
Okay, enough.
Yeah.
We're moving in to clear this.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, so just like we saw the Cale Anderson a couple weeks prior to this, and we put out a press release that got really good traction as to explaining Seattle's public safety political reality.
Watch that.
Yeah. It's we're in a really, really difficult position to be in. And at that rally where they were trying to paint the religious people that had a permit for that park as the right-wing extremists that caused the problem, well, then you had Antifa show, and then, of course, we then got blamed, the police.
Yeah.
So in 2020, the police were the focus, right? But now
you guys are ICE agents.
Now we're ACE agents. So which one is it?
Yeah.
Right. And then I finally just came to my mind. Reason why I brought up the chief earlier in the pod is that we're going to need direction from our command, more so City Hall, is if ICE agents are in trouble, meaning they're in a position kind of like you were in, where they're defending, basically fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Not to sound too dramatic, but that's essentially what it is. I mean, look at the knuckle hits on that helmet. They call for help, we're going to have to respond as cops.
Yeah.
And so then it's going to get spun as if we're helping the immigration arrests, right?
Right.
And I wonder how many cops are going to get thrown under the bus for that political optic, that talking point. So that's why we need direction. And this is where politics invades intentionally the public safety conversation, which puts us in a bad spot because all we're trying to do is just protect another law enforcement officer who might be over their heads because a mob is trying to stop the arrest of what they think is a righteous cause.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So we need direction. That's why I bring it up. So that's clearly, that's why our national group, you cops, you can find us at United Cops, went to Rochester, New York about a month and a half ago, where Tom Homan was backing the cops up in Rochester who did exactly that. They went to assist ICE because ICE was in over their heads in a traffic stop, and they went there to help them. And then they got thrown under the bus politically by their mayor and police chief. So we're trying to get ahead of this. So, public needs to know what the politics are infused with just our service. Pretty incredible. So what's new for you, dude? Like, what's next for you? How are you going to defend yourself a little bit better? Or should you? Or have you? What lessons learned? That's a better question. What's a lesson learned for you?
Well, avoid sitting down as much as possible. Gonna have to change up outfits, stronger pepper spray, higher capacity can. Make sure I always have a helmet on. Cause I didn't even have a helmet on that day. John Cho texted me and said that he thought they were going to be throwing rocks at the police. And if he hadn't texted me that and told me you probably wear a helmet. I usually don't wear a helmet when I'm undercover because it doesn't, it can blend in well, but that helmet is brand new. I went and bought it that day at Walmart.
Holy cow, it's all scraped up.
Yeah, first time I ever wore it. And so I went and picked it up and wore it because, it's just a bike helmet, blends in with the Antifa. Sometimes I wear helmets, stuff like that. But I really wouldn't have had that on if he didn't text me that. And
well, that's good. That's probably just divine intervention right there. Another independent journalist who's got experience looking out for another independent journalist.
Yeah.
You guys are leading the charge, man. I no longer work, I shouldn't say that broadly, but I tend not to work with legacy corporate media anymore because they don't tell the truth.
Yeah.
And they'll always want a quote from you to insert into their piece to fill their narrative. And it's one of the reasons why podcasts are popping up. One of the reasons why we did this is to fill our narrative, which we feel is the truth, much like all you're doing, man, is recording the actions.
Exactly.
Whether it's police doing bad actions or if it's these lunatics that are trying to subvert our republic.
Yeah, and there are even ways to screw that up, just filming the action. Like there are, again, a lot of left-leaning journalists who are just like unemployed people with phones that go out and record this stuff too. And lens always on the
police,
the one magnification on the police, none of the crowd with their big shields, smashing them on the ground and, throwing, if they throw a rock at the cops, I have been over these people's shoulders watching them watch big rocks the size of your hand get thrown at SPD or DHS. Never shows it in their coverage.
So they selectively edit it.
Oh, of course, yeah, and they don't show this stuff. I'm on like I said, 0.5 lens, it's getting I want a fisheye. I want to see it.
So 0.5 is basically more of a peripheral magnification.
Yeah,
right?
It'll get everything. Yeah. So I've got them over here. I've got you guys over here. They throw a rock at you guys. I catch it. If SPD does something unjustified, that's getting caught too. And I'm not cropping it. I'm posting it. You know what I mean? And it just happens to be that SPD tends to not do anything wrong, and the protesters do. And that's not to say that like SPD can't make mistakes. It's just who tends to be the violent side here. It's the rioters. And, when I was in LA, I was posting everything, and there were videos of journalists getting hit with rubber bullets or pepper balls, and they're getting carried. And it's like, I posted that too. And I caught flack from conservatives for that. And
yeah,
that's fine. Whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm just, cause I have an opinion and I have a bias for sure. I definitely don't like these people, but I'm also trying to give people just a sense of what it looks like. So, if there's somebody getting carried away after getting hit by a rubber bullet, if this person's a rioter, I probably don't feel bad for that person, but it does help people get a sense of what it feels like on the ground. So
yeah, and there's something in an environment like that, it's chaotic, and sometimes cops need to be very more selective in terms of their targeting.
Yeah.
And mistakes can be made. We're humans.
Yeah, exactly. But I tend to think that most of it is justified, but there are definitely cases where, maybe somebody gets hit with a stray or something. But then again, it's like, if you're a journalist like me, and there's this Australian reporter who got hit with a rubber bullet. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, we can operate behind police lines. Like, the police will let us do that if we want to operate behind police lines. But we've chosen to be on this side of the police line, and this is the side where the chaos is. And I guarantee
you could get hit.
And I guarantee there was somebody behind her cameraman with his arm cocked back with a glass bottle. And
Fog of war.
Yeah, exactly. And in those rubber bullet launchers, I can't imagine that they're the most pinpoint accurate thing on the planet. So, you shoot and you're trying to get
people
the guy behind
move.
her. Yeah, people move.
Yeah, some of those things can only travel a couple 100 feet per second.
Yeah, and I didn't see her complaining. It's like, we know what we're doing. There's a good chance we're going to get hit in the crossfire with something at some point. We've all been hit, and we've all had flashbangs go off near us, and it's like, now that doesn't justify like a cop just seeing a journalist and shooting him in the head. That'd be a lawsuit for sure, but that's not happening.
Right.
So
okay, well said. Wrapping up here, what's next for you?
I'm just gonna keep doing it. I'm not gonna be intimidated by these people. If I intimidate them, it's just gonna show that they can do it more, get more aggressive, do it to other people, do it to other journalists, Katie, John, whoever. It's the same thing with the politics here. You bend a knee to them, the mayor's office, whoever bends a knee and lets them get away with stuff and lets them continue committing violence without arrest or prosecution. The prosecutors are doing it. They will continue to do it. And it's kind of taught behavior, learned behavior. We can get away with this. Let's keep doing it. So if I teach them that beating me up every time they see me will get me to go away, then they'll just keep doing it. Maybe next time I'm at the mall and they see me and I'm not even doing my job. Maybe they, who knows what could happen. So
sure,
can't teach them that.
Well said. How do people find you?
Find me on Twitter at Cam Higby, CamHigby. I'm also on YouTube. I do debrief videos. So all my live coverage in the field, I post pretty, like up to date. So like when I'm in the field, I'll post it immediately on X. And then on YouTube, I do long debriefs where I explain the events of what happened through my eyes, and then I like insert the footage and stuff like that, longer form.
That's awesome. We'll put some links in the description for sure. Really thank you for coming out, man. And I think more importantly, just doing what you're doing. It kind of gives me chills that you got so much drive and fire.
Yeah,
thanks. A good way to hold these lunatics to account, because clearly our elected leaders aren't.
Yeah.
Cops were trying. And man, I can't thank you enough. People like yourself that
likewise
are facing all the vitriol.
Yeah,
and it's great. So I think it's a testament to this guy's will and character to put up with all the crap, character hits and physical hits. No pun intended, Cam. Glad you're doing all right, man. But if you can embody that, like and subscribe, share this, repost on X. That's basically our go-to platform. We feel as that is really capturing the truth and getting it out there. Thank God that was purchased by somebody that was willing to stand up for the First Amendment, because corporate media is not doing it. If you can do that basic thing, support CAN, support independent journalists, then we can all continue to hold the line and actually have a functioning republic. Till next time. See ya.